Good morning. It's another time to make some crafts. It's crafts day for me. And I'll be doing another recycled can art. It's Christmas season here in the Philippines now. It was, it's December 26th. And usually uh, during the Christmas season, we prepare special meals. Not usually, but always, right? And we use sauces, cans of fruit cocktails. So I have some empty cans here, which I'm going to recycle or reuse. This is from, I think, pork and beans. This is from pineapple juice. Okay. Okay. And this is from a brand of fruit cocktail. Now, when making a can art, uh, I choose the can depending on the design I'm going to make. Uh, this one here, I'm going to make it look like a wine barrel with some grapevines and fruits of grapes. Okay, so I chose this one for that. Now, this one here, I'm going to make into the design will be like a fairy house. It's going to have a fairy door and some vines and berries, and maybe I'll put some butterflies. I don't know yet because when I have lots of materials uh, in my cabinet. So usually, you know, whenever I do crafts, oops, I think I'll add a butterfly here, so I'll get it. Okay, so uh, I usually do things as I progress. Now, instead of cans, if you don't have cans, you can use bottles or a glass jar like this one here. This used to be a glass jar of your tomato dip for your nachos. Okay, and this used to be this is a liquor bottle. It's like maybe 40 years ago, 40 years old. It's been in the family for 40 years, and before my mom passed away, I asked her if I could uh, transform it into this kind of art. Now, whether you use a bottle or a can, you start by covering the surface with paper or tissue paper. Okay? What paper do I use, or what paper can you use? I like recycling things, so whenever I go to the grocery and like in one grocery they don't use plastics, they use paper bag. I set aside the paper bag because I can cut them into pieces or tear them apart, tear them into pieces, and use them. Like uh, this one here, I went to a dollar store, and this used to be a paper bag for some stuff I bought, and I used it to cover this pineapple juice can. So this one here is going to be like this. Okay. So some people, uh, after covering it with brown paper, they add table napkin. You can use some table napkin like this, or you can use the regular tissue paper, or I have here, like the other day, I went to the restaurant, and instead of leaving the spare or the extra table napkin, I brought it home for my crafts. So, whenever you go out, usually the waiters, they just throw the tissue paper away. So you get them and use them. Okay, instead of them ending up in the trash, let them end up in your art project. Okay, I have used receipts before. Okay, so when I go to the department store, I get the receipts and use that. Yesterday we ate at a very popular chicken resto. They roast the chicken. And the utensils, the spoon and fork, came in this uh, white bag. Okay, so I got two or three to use in my crafts. Okay, so when do you use tissue paper? Some people, by the way, instead of using brown paper, they use straight away. They use tissue paper. Why? Tissue paper is something I use and I have found very nice, especially if I want my project to have this, like antique look. You see those like root hairs? It gives it like crinkled, an old look, something unpolished. Like a container of decades back when people have not mastered polished uh, surfaces. Okay, I also use tissue paper here. For this bottle here, I didn't use brown paper. Immediately, I used tissue paper. Bako, my dog is barking because, whenever a motorbike passes by, here I use, after covering it with brown paper, for this can, after covering it with brown paper, I covered it with tissue paper. So the option is yours. For this one, I'm not going to cover with tissue paper. Why? I'm going to add strips of cardboard, which I'm going to show you later, because I'm going to make it look like a wine barrel. And then I'll be adding like grapevines with fruits and leaves. Okay? So the barrel would look like bronze and gold, something like that. And then we would have the purple, bluish, reddish grapes and the green leaves, okay, accented with copper and bronze. So let me show you how to do it. Let me show you how I cover it using this can, which I'm going to transform into something like a fairy house. Okay? So first you get your dish of water, and then you add some craft glue. You can use this one, or you can use wood glue. Wood glue is nice because they really sticks very well. So what I do is I get a basin of water, a small dish, and then I add some of the wood glue or your craft glue with the water, and then I mix it. So what happens is, it you mix it until it's dissolved. Sometimes it doesn't dissolve perfectly. That's okay. The important thing is most of the glue is dissolved. Now, let me put this here. I have let me tilt my camera a bit. I have this area where I usually paint. Now let me open this. Let's put the other side here. Now what you do next is you get some paper. You can either cut pieces of paper. Let's do that. So I have here my paper. I'm going to cut them into strips. But sometimes, maybe in the other videos you have seen me, I didn't cut them into strips. I just tore them into pieces. That's okay. Okay, that would be fine. Both are fine. It just depends on you. Okay? So I'll be showing you some strips. Some in strips and some in cut pieces. So what you do next is you moisten your brown paper with a mixture of glue and water. By the way, I have already cleaned the can a few days ago. And then what you do next is you put it here on the surface, okay? And tap it with your finger, okay, until it adheres to the surface. Now, let me use this one here. So you repeat the process until you have covered all of the can, inside and the out and underneath. Okay, so do not forget the surface, the under part, the base. So there, you overlap them. Okay. Sometimes what I do is I also do this. I moisten it so that the areas where they overlap would stick together, and I press it, and I press the paper down. Okay. Okay. Now I have here something that's a bit uneven, irregularly shaped. I'll put it at the base just to show you how. Okay, put it at the base. So that's how you do it. You just cover it. You just moisten it. Some people, what they do is they apply the glue onto the can or the surface of the bottle, whatever container you might want to use, and then they put the paper on there. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so this one, maybe it would take you less than 30 minutes to do, especially if all the materials are ready, if you have already cut the strips of paper. Now, I'll just apply this and show you how it looks. Because after applying the paper, what you do next is you put it out under the sun to dry. If it's nighttime, you can let it stay overnight and place it somewhere where it has some ventilation or air flowing. Like here in the tropics, we use electric fan, so you can place it where the electric fan, the wind from the electric fan reaches the container. Or like now, it's sunny outside. It's December 26th. It's past 9:30, so I'm going to, after covering this, I'm going to put it out under the sun to dry, and it would take maybe an hour or two, depending how hot the temperature is, how hot the sun is outside. So that's how you do it. You just cover all of the surface. Okay. You can apply the glue onto the can. Okay. Moisten it. Okay. Okay. That's how you do it. Okay. So there. Now I'm going to show you. Let's say I have covered it completely. Okay. Once covered completely and dried, it's going to look like this. Okay. No longer moist. Okay. Now, if you want to cover this with tissue paper, it's up to you. Okay. Now, how do you do this? Now, let's pretend that this one is already dry. Okay. because this one I'm not going to use tissue paper on it. What you just do is you get some table napkin, like this one here from the restaurant. Okay. As I said a while ago, some people, they go directly to tissue paper. They don't use the craft paper, okay? So you put it on the surface of the can, like that, okay? And then you just dab it with the water with glue. So it's going to stick to the surface of the can. Okay. Now you can see the ripples or the veins on the surface. Okay. Now, because I'm going to make this like a tree and I want the veins to go vertically, okay, because now it's horizontal, okay, I'm going to change the direction of the paper and apply it this way. Okay. Sometimes you just have to observe how the grains would look like, or the veins, the vein things, or the texture of the. Okay, now it's going a bit diagonal and vertical. Okay, so because naturally the tree bark goes that way, vertically, not horizontally. Okay. So you just cover that. This is easier if you want texture, and then you remove the air bubbles. It's better to remove the air bubbles. You cover also the base. Don't forget the base. Okay. You just dab it with the brush. Okay. So as I said, it depends on you if you want to use paper only or paper with tissue paper, so that the first layer of paper would give it a stronger, surface. The surface would be stronger, especially when you start adding decors. Or you can add 2 or 3 layers of tissue paper. It depends on you. Now, look, it has that, those folds that would simulate the texture of the tree bark. By the way, when I make other videos on recycled cans, I'm not going to show anymore this part here. I'll just refer you to this video. Okay. So let's cover this completely with tissue paper. Okay. So you can tear it. Now, where are the folds? Okay. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to cover this with 2 or 3 layers of tissue paper. Sometimes what I do when I work with tissue paper is I would put first layer, let's say, white tissue paper. Second, brown tissue paper. Why? At least I know, like, oops, I have already, this part here has not yet been covered with tissue paper. So, because if I'll be using white all throughout, I might miss out some areas. Some areas might be thicker, might have just 1 layer, while others might have already gotten their second or third layer. Okay? So I want an even distribution of paper. Okay. I'm excited with this project here because I like designs that are related to nature. So I like designs like trees, grapes, uh, berries, butterflies, fairies. Although I know fairies are just mythical, you know, they're mythical creatures. I like something that, you know, something that that is more on the fantasy type, the fiction. I grew up reading and reading fantasy and fiction books and stories when I was young. And I also am fond of science fiction. So I like to do something that is out a bit mythical or sci-fi. Okay. So there, I have covered that. Let's add another layer. Now let's cover the inside while the outer layer is still, you know, drying up. Okay, so for the inside, you just put it there, and then you dab it and let it overlap on the outside. Okay, so inside, you just, the same procedure, you just dab it. Okay, now and then remove the air bubbles. By the way, some cans like this one has this something that you pull, but then it has this rim, inner rim. Okay. However, some cans you use a can opener and it's very neat. Okay. So there. You just dab it. Okay. So once you have applied 2 or 3 layers and you let it dry, it's going to look like this. Okay. Okay. So once painted, you will see the texture. Now, I'm going to pause the video here because, you know, I'll be finishing this. When you do yours, you know, you just work your way. It's going to take you maybe less than 30 minutes to finish. It's taking me longer because I'm talking. But once you have covered it with paper or tissue paper, depending on the texture or of the surface that you want, you put it out to dry. And then once dried, you can start decorating. Okay, so I'll end my video here. And when I return, I'll be working on this one here, which I'm going to make into a wine barrel with grapes. Okay, now there are techniques here that once I show them to you, I'll be using them for the fairy house too. Okay, so watch this and then wait for the fairy house design. Fairy houses are very neat. There are lots of variations. It depends on you. So see you in a while.